Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm Mike Broadman. Joining me once again is Richie Schneiderite. We have a special guest today, Barstool's TJ Hitchings, Rutgers superfan. TJ, welcome to the show, man. Really appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk a lot of things today.
Oh yeah, guys, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. But before we get into anything, this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline, football is back, and BetOnline remains to be your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. You could head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline where the game starts. And I'll say this is the second best sports book out there right now, short to the Barstool Sportsbook. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. And they're just a sponsor. I don't really care. But make sure you have both, guys.
I was gonna say, like, TJ just looks down the entire ad read, and I'm like, I know why. I know why.
I didn't even think of that. I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to get in.
I forgot about that. No, the Barstool Sportsbook is better. I got a bunch of free gear from it, so that's the best part. But
hell yeah,
for sure. Overs Club.
Anyway, yeah,
yep.
There you go. Anyway, we're also sponsored by Adam Goldman. He's the franchise coach. Kind of basically what he does is if you hate your life, you hate your job, you want to switch things up, call Adam because he's going to hook you up with a Dunkin' Donuts or a McDonald's or whatever the fuck you want to run in your life. He's a Scarlet Night fan, a Night Report member, franchise veteran for over a decade. If you want to change get your own kind of American dream going, hit him up. It's 844-800-3726 or franchisecoach.net. I'm getting better and better at these.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. So TJ, thanks so much for joining us. You're kind of rapidly ascending amongst the Rutgers fan base as probably our most well-known super fan. Tell us a little bit about first how you got into Rutgers in general. I know you just did an interview with the Scarlet Spotlight guys, so you kind of are going over this a second time. Just tell us about how you got into Rutgers.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, especially working in like sports media, a lot of people around me like kind of grew up as fans of a college athletics program. And that wasn't the case for me. Both of my parents didn't go to like traditional sports schools. My dad went to NYU night classes as an adult. My mom went to community college for like 3 semesters, dropped out. So for me, growing up, being in Jersey, obviously Rutgers was, coming up when, in the mid 2000s in the first Schiano era, but I didn't really have like a personal connection. I hadn't been to a game. And when I was going to college, everybody kind of like, shunned Rutgers off. This was in 2015. I graduated high school. So at the time, entering the Big Ten, but still people would sort of shrug Rutgers off as like, oh, that's just like, you're going to see a lot of high school kids there. Like, you're not going to get the real experience. So I was kind of initially turned off, and I ended up going to a small school in North Jersey, Montclair State, for a year. And within the first week at Montclair State, I had realized that like I wasn't in the right place. I texted one of my friends who was a freshman at Rutgers at the time and said like, I don't know if this is the right thing. Like, there's no campus environment. There's no like big school feel. The sports are obviously it's a D3 school, so that's not like an aspect of campus life. I knew pretty early on, like, I think I might look at transferring. And, he said like, well, where would you look? And wanting to stay in state, it was like Rutgers was, immediately the front runner candidate. I had applied from high school and gotten in, so I knew I had that, in my bag. So by the end of my first semester, I had applied to transfer into Rutgers as a sophomore. And the experience I learned in my first year in college was basically like, there's only a limited time here. Like, you have to take opportunities as they come to you. So going into Rutgers, I had like a fresh outlook on everything. I was like, I don't care about what people in high school said. I don't care about like whatever stigmas are around like Rutgers, whether it's athletics related or otherwise. Like, I'm going to make make the best of the opportunity I have here with 3 years left in a college experience, kind of like wasting the first year. So like I hit the ground running. I got involved in the Targum and Our Vision. And through a family friend connection, Marco Battaglia, he was able to get me involved doing some social media stuff with the football team, just like light game day stuff here and there. Just like really trying to do whatever I could and tap whatever resources I had to get immersed in the culture of the school and sort of like right from the start, before social media ever started to be like a thing that I considered growing, like try and make Rutgers part of my identity, because like I'm going to spend the next 3 years of my life here. Might as well try and enjoy it and try and do some cool stuff. So like basically from that point on, 2016 on to now, it's basically been like any opportunities I can, work myself into at Rutgers. I did, writing for the Targum, video for the Targum, and then our Vision Live video stuff. And then eventually got involved with Barstool and the social media side of things. Like it was really just, I had learned a lesson my first year in college that like not to take the experience for granted and sort of not care what other people think, and just start, doing whatever it is I could to, elevate my own experience.
So now you said you did social media with the football team. Was this under Ash or Flood or?
This was, under the Ash year. So I was at Rutgers for
So they saw you grow it, and they were like, holy shit, this kid grew our platform under the worst coach ever.
Well, it was a more of like a recruiting direction type.
Gotcha.
It was like the Snapchat that went out to recruits to show like game day experiences. Mm-hmm. But yes, I was there for the 16, 17, and 18 football season.
Jesus.
So not exactly. And I told people while I was there, I was like, "Don't you worry. Like as soon as I leave here, we'll start being good at sports." I swear. Like I must have told that to countless people, basketball and football. I was like, I know once I leave here, like things will turn around. That's just like how karma works in my life. But those were not exactly the easiest games to cover. They had to text me to sort of like stop filming stuff because the stadium's empty and we're down 70 to Michigan at home game.
Those are like the true dark ages of Rutgers athletics because, I went to school, I started in 2007, so I'm right coming off Pandemonium Piscataway. I went to that game as a high school senior. Everything was kind of good on the football aspect. Basketball even was terrible when you first started, because that was like the first you use a Pike. He was finishing, last in the conference, but we were showing some life. Like we had those MSG moments, but how hard was it to like not lose that like that confidence you had in like Rutgers is gonna make it? It's just gonna take time when you're just like seeing every program that matters come in like last place every year.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of just like threw what other people's opinions were to the wayside for a good amount of time there. It was like, this is my school. This is like, as much as I root for, the Yankees or the Giants, like it doesn't really matter if they're playing good or bad. Like, this is my school. I have to support them. And, it became like, once I started getting involved in the Barstool Rutgers social media, it kind of became like, let's say a business decision to not like openly shit talk the football team administration, because I was like double dipping by doing Barstool Rutgers and then also working within the football team, and they knew that, and they like the last thing I wanted was to get anybody in trouble that helped me out at any point. But I could see like the bright spots here and there, whether it's like you said, like the MSG Big Ten tournament. I was like, okay, this is it. We're coming alive. Like this is where things get rolling, and that's kind of come through. Like keep the faith is a mantra I've always sort of believed in, and whether it's that or talking about shopping with the football team, like we'll get there one day. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It's my team.
Sure, and you've kind of had like some interesting experiences with the athletic department too. Recently, like you threw out a first pitch at baseball game. The baseball team obviously had its best season in a long time this year. You have that hype video of basketball games they show now. Like, what is the process for actually getting some of that stuff done at Rutgers?
Some of that's surreal. A lot of the times, like obviously I'm trying to put as much positive PR out on my Twitter as I can about these teams. When like the baseball team gets rolling, I'm trying to make people know, hey, look, we have a baseball team and they're pretty good. Like the field might not live up to the hype of like an SEC program's field. Maybe we'll get there one day, but we're good at baseball. We're winning games. And once that starts happening, like a lot of the players and the administration for baseball would follow me, or I would follow them, and they'd follow back. And that one thing led to another. They sent me a couple DMs and said, hey, we'd love to have you out for a game. Here's, a list of dates. Like, let us know what you could do. Same thing goes for, they filmed a Faces of Rutgers, like, fan profile video for football season that sometimes airs in the stadium. That was just, again, like the marketing team of the football program reaching out to some, like, more, I guess, notable or dedicated online fans and being like, hey, you want to be a part of this? Like, I guess you guys now fall under media, and I don't yet because I'm not, like, directly beat writing the team, but Yeah, it's been. I mean, all that stuff's awesome. Like, I appreciate it so much. I try not to take anything like that for granted. Like, it is kind of surreal to me that, like, even this week, like, they have some things planned for the guys that we're with that they want us to be a part of. Like, it's crazy to me, like, to see how far it's come from in the last, like, less than 10 years that I've been involved with Rutgers fandom.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to throw you a softball here, but like, what's your like all-time Rutgers moment? Obviously, like you just said, you threw a first pitch. You're on all these videos. Like, is it the rack? Like, what is it?
I mean, I think the easy answer is just being there for the Ron Harper Jr. shot last year.
Yep.
And having like a small part in that. Like, I'm not going to claim any sort of responsibility. I did show up when we were down, 12 at the 14-minute mark when we came back.
There you go.
But there's been a lot. Like, I anytime that I'm involved with, the team media, I think that means a lot to me. I'm still looking for that Shiano interaction. I haven't had a one-on-one discourse with them at all yet. Maybe that happens this week. We'll see. But just being a part of like big moments, that's what makes me happiest. Because like I'll be the supporter that I am, no matter how the team is playing. Like, I'll figure out a silver lining to root for. So when the team has big moments, and if I could be a small part of those, that's what means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
So I want to piggyback off that one real quick. I know they're not Pit Vipers, but did you make Pit Vipers cool before they were cool? Because it seems like the photo you look at you online, it's just like there's just a giant, big, glaring sunglasses. And how did that even get started?
That's just become like an unhealthy obsession at this point, where I probably have like 10 to 15 different pairs of random brand huge sunglasses in black and red, just trying to like put together to see what different sunglasses look like. I don't even remember fully when like the first game I decided to bust those out was. I don't know if it might have been when I was a student still, where I just decided to throw those on in the front of the student section. But yeah, I'm glad. I was always wearing bucket hats, like ever since like my first game. I was wearing Rutgers bucket hats to games. I don't know when I decided to throw the sunglasses on and incorporate that, but I'm glad that sort of led to a little bit of personal branding, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it seems like you're trying to make all these different fashion trends happen between the Pit Vipers and the brimless hats. Like you're just finding all these like Temple of Doom-esque like Rutgers gear, like one of one type of things. Like, how have you had a lot of help finding that gear now that you're pretty well known in the Rutgers community, or is it just as hard as it always has been to find those like starter jackets, those old school Rutgers hats?
Yeah, last basketball season, that was like my conquest, was to find a starter jacket in a double XL, and it took a while. Like, I eventually found somebody that wanted to like trade it for some Barstool merchandise, which works for me, obviously.
Really?
But so shout out to him. That was a huge help, because those things are, like you said, like very, very few and far in between. I think it's on one end because we weren't very good at or notable in the late 80s, early 90s when that stuff was sort of popping off. And two, because anybody that was that dedicated of a fan to spend money on a jacket or something substantial back then probably still is that dedicated of a fan. Like, if you walk around at a football game or a basketball game, like, there are some old people with some crazy cool jackets on that, like, you just can't get. So, yeah, it's been fun. Like, I like looking for weird stuff, whether it's, like, there was a sell-off at the rack at the end of last basketball season of, like, auctioned-off items of some, like, pieces from the old scoreboard at the rack. Like, stuff like that always piques my interest as, like, unique items that people look for. I had guys on the basketball team, like Paul Mulcahy, DM'd me when I was looking for a starter jacket, looking if I could find him one too, because he wanted one.
Really? Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you able to find a second one or no?
No, there is. I've seen pictures of maybe like listings of 5 or 6 ever. It is the hats too. Like I just started getting into like the vintage hats more over this summer, and I've DM'd some like vintage collectors that are like, I don't know if I've ever seen a Rutgers hat like in this style or whatever it is.
Wow.
So it's something.
Jeez. So yeah, I want to talk about one of your honors you just tweeted out today, top 10 Rutgers Hall of Famer. How the hell did that happen? And just kind of break that down, I guess.
Yeah, so I remember seeing last year that over the summer at some point they did a Rutgers Fan Hall of Fame contest, and a couple of guys that I've talked to online, obviously, were in like the inaugural class. It sort of like it must have like blown past my radar before I could get a hold of it and like make a push for it.
But you would have been there already.
Yeah, I mean, again, I try to be humble, but so it came back around for a second class this year. So I decided to make that a goal, and the voting for the top 10 opened today, Tuesday, as this is being recorded. And I think I have a pretty good shot at making top 3 who get honored at the Penn State game at halftime. But yeah, if you want to go to my Twitter, it's at the top of my Twitter if you want to vote for me.
There you go.
Yeah, that's at TJ Hitchings. Definitely give him a vote, guys. But the main reason we wanted to have you on this week is because there's a pretty huge event going on with Barstool and Rutgers this coming Friday. You guys have your college football show. It's a traveling show, sort of like College Game Day for those of you who aren't familiar. Tell us a little bit about how that came together and kind of what you guys do for those events.
Yeah, so it's basically like our offshoot of like an ESPN College Game Day type live picks show. Think of it as like game day, but it's actually like fun to be a part of and like engaging the entire time. It's hosted by Dave Portnoy and Big Cat with our college football experts Brandon Walker and Casey Smith on the panel as well.
King of the South.
Yeah. Every episode we try to have a guest picker. I don't know if it's announced yet, so I'll keep that under locks until later this week. But it's a very notable Rutgers alum that'll be on stage with us. And the show will be starting at 5:30 right in the Athletes Glen beer garden area outside the main gate of the stadium. So if you're going to be tailgating or whatever, stop by. It's a free show. It's a good time, 40 minutes-ish. There'll be, T-shirt giveaways and some other stuff going on. But yeah, basically they try and organize a schedule every year of shows in states at college football games in states where the Barstool Sportsbook is up and running. So Jersey's been on that list for the last 2 years, but as you guys know, we don't get a lot of like prime time slots for Rutgers football games, or like notable games that they would want to go to. So this year it worked out where we got a Friday night game, which they've never done a show for, and this year they want to try doing stuff that they've never done. Like they're doing shows at MAC schools later this year in the middle of the week, which they've never attempted before. They're trying to do a doubleheader where they do Michigan State, and then fly to Penn State at night for a second show on the same day.
That would be wild.
So, yeah, Friday night show was on that list of things they've never done, and Jersey's a legal gambling state, and it will be a hype environment for a Rutgers football game. So it makes sense. Like basically the dominoes fell our way where, like, for the first time, it's actually been like truly considered for us to come down. Obviously, it makes it easier that it's an hour away from the city, but it's. I know that people here are very excited. A lot of people are just going to go just to like be a part of it, even if they're not on the show, just because it's local enough and it's a fun Friday night out. I know that people like inside the Rutgers administration are very excited about it, just to sort of like flare the game up more. Like it's already a game that's on Fox Sports 1 instead of Big Ten Network. There's a lot of recruits coming in. It's a blackout Friday night game, so it should be a fun time. If you're in the area, you can't miss it. It'll be right at the end of the boardwalk. Like, it should be a fun time for everybody.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's going to be insane. But are they going to have, like, signs and stuff like that, like game day? Like, you, like, write your own signs and all that, the corny sayings and all that shit?
I would imagine. So, like, yeah, normally it's a very student-heavy crowd. I would imagine because this is on Bush and right by the stadium, that it's probably going to be a lot of young alums that come over from their tailgates and stuff, just because it's going to be hard to miss. But I mean, we encourage that sort of stuff. If you want to show up with a sign or with a crazy outfit on, obviously go for it. Like, yeah, it should, whatever you guys want.
Fair enough.
For sure. Are there any like big time Nebraska fans in Barstool? I know that like Mississippi State obviously has Brandon Walker. Casey's a Texas A&M fan. I don't know everybody's allegiance, but is there a big time Nebraska fan at Barstool?
Yeah, so Will Compton of the Bussin' with the Boys podcast.
Oh, that's right.
In the NFL. He is allegedly going to show his face. He played at Nebraska 10 years ago.
Allegedly.
Yeah, he played at Nebraska 10 years ago. He thinks that they're going to smash us this weekend. He had Nebraska going 11-1, so he's having a pretty bad year so far. But he is allegedly going to come to the show on Friday.
I would assume most of them are going to show up just because it's so close, right? Like
I think we're
guys
getting like a bus if people want to come down and just go to the show, basically.
Nice.
So how hard were you pushing for a Rutgers appearance? I know that the bench mob was here last year for a basketball game, but how hard were you pushing for this college football show to come to Rutgers and also just to have more events at Rutgers? Just because you said it is so close, the athletics are becoming more and more big time. Do you think that Barstool's going to have a bigger presence at Rutgers in the years coming forward?
I would hope so. Like, as we sort of go up, like, I would hope that, it's sort of like, if this goes well, it's sort of like a proving ground for more large-scale stuff like this. Like, I would love to have us do a show like this in front of the Rutgers Seton Hall game if we did a show outside of Jersey Mike's or something. Like bottling up that, like, crazy, like, Jersey energy with people, like, diehard fans running around. Even, like, a video of, like, a wrestling meet or something. Like, there's so much going on here that I don't think most people know about. They just see, like, the brand name Rutgers and they kind of write it off or whatever. But, like, it is, like, a crazy environment when you get, like, a packed house of fans. Like, most of the people coming are, like, longtime Jersey residents that are, like, loudmouthed and obnoxious, but, like, in the best way possible. Like, we've had games where the football stadium is half full and it sounds like the building's shaking just because we're just louder in New Jersey. So, yeah, hopefully, like, I've been obviously whispering to people, like, hey, let's do Rutgers stuff for a while. Hopefully this is sort of like the green flag for those ideas.
So before we get to, like,
Definitely.
Predictions and all that good
let's
stuff.
talk a little bit about
Oh, all right. Never mind. You go, Mike. That's fine.
No, go ahead.
It's cool. It's whatever. No, it's cool. You go. No, you can go.
Nah, I'm just saying, let's talk about this game. I'm hyped for it. Rutgers
Well,
coming in 3-2.
let's get into that.
All right, go for it.
No. It's okay.
All right, my bad. All right, Nebraska's 3-2. They fired their coach already, who seemed like an abject disaster. They won last week in a pretty triumphant win against Indiana. Not that Indiana's great, but it seemed like their team was really fired up to play under their interim coach. They really don't have a whole lot going on in defense. They're one of the worst Power 5 defenses in the country, but they do have three pretty good offensive players in quarterback Casey Thompson, running back Anthony Grant, and wide receiver Trey Palmer. How do you guys see this game going? Do you think it's going to be high scoring? Do you think it's going to be a defensive struggle? Richie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, you got to run the ball on this team. This team's rushing defense is awful. It's like you just said. I was looking it up before. I think they're bottom 2 or they might be the worst in the Big Ten in terms of rushing defense. And that's Rutgers' bread and butter, like Al-Shadi Salam, Samuel Brown, Kyle Wanangai. Hopefully you get Aaron Young back, who dressed last week. So you got to just run the ball down their throats. You got Johnny Langan, who can also run the ball as well. And I think you got to attack that as often and as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally you figure out a quarterback before the game starts. I know that's not been the trend so far this season, but hopefully we hear something. Like, I would rather at least solidly have somebody in mind. Although, like, we've started a new quarterback almost every week, so maybe we throw in Matt Alimo at QB this weekend and see what happens. Yeah, like you said, like, I think, like, the trick plays and stuff, like, it's great to see that that's in the bag, but I think, like, when you have games that are, like, factually winnable, you have to win the game. Like, Iowa should have been a game, those two turnovers don't happen. It's a 13-10 game instead of a 27-10 game. Like, This is another one of those winnable opportunities in conference at home in front of a crazy crowd. It's probably going to be low scoring because our offense hasn't shown that they can really put up that many points, but you have to win, like, the small battles here and there, whether it's, in the turnover game or on the ground or in third down and fourth down territory. And it's a winnable game in front of a crazy environment against a team who hasn't played a true road game this year. They played the neutral site in Ireland, which was 90% Nebraska fans. They played 4 home games and a bye week. So this is, like, their first time up against a major crowd like this. You have to take advantage. And it's a game that has a lot of implications if you want to think broad spectrum of, recruiting and that sort of stuff, like, long term, or if this season is a failure or success. If we're going to get back to 5 wins, this is a game you have to win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this game opened as a pick'em, and on the Barstool Sportsbook app, Rutgers is now a 3-point dog in this one. So it seems like the bettors are kind of going against Rutgers in this one. I do think that, like, Iowa was, like, one of the best front sevens in college football. I don't think Rutgers will struggle against Nebraska personally. I think if we can get, especially like a turnover that sets us up in good field position, we jump out to an early lead. Maybe if we have like a trick play, like you're saying, I do think this is a game that we can kind of just like salt away by just running it down their throats, sort of like Boston College was, just getting an early lead. This crowd's gonna be crazy. One that like, so you became a Rutgers fan like 2016. So I assume you didn't go to any like the big time early night games and like the early aughts, like against Penn State, Michigan. So the last,
if you want to know, my first Rutgers game experience was 2015 against Michigan State. Chris Leviano spikes on 4th down.
Oh my God!
I've known pain for a while, pretty much exclusively.
So probably the most hype environment you've seen for a football game was Iowa last week or 2 weeks ago. Then
it was certainly, like, with all things considered, it was a different atmosphere. And I talked to Johnny Langan after the game, and he said, like, it's the craziest environment he's played in or been a part of. So yeah, that with the lights, and yeah, it was definitely a different feeling in the air.
So I think Nebraska is going to be at least 90% of what Iowa was like. Hopefully more, because I never know, like, with people who have kids and shit like that, like who like what's easier for them to make, like a night game on a Friday or a Saturday. But I really do feel like this is going to be like a 48,000 plus crowd going absolutely crazy. Hopefully nice and tuned up from drinking all day.
Yeah, they travel well too. Like, let's not count that out. They travel really well.
Yep. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there was over 5,000 Nebraska fans at the stadium, even though they're like completely terrible this year and a program spiraling. How do you guys see this game going? Let's get some predictions, Richie. I know you put it out in the war room each week, but
yeah,
how do you see this game actually falling?
If you're going to win this game, if you're Rutgers, you got to do ugly. You got to do what they've done for just about all their wins, minus Wagner this year. It's not going to be pretty. The quarterback situation's a mess. Whether it's Evan Simon, Noah Vedral comes in and just runs the ball for some reason. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. Gavin Wimstad's probably out if I had to guess, because he was in a boot last week. So it's probably going to be one of those two. I don't know if you play quarterback roulette again, but like TJ said before, it just doesn't work. Just pick one and like just ride your highs and lows with the guy. I do have Rutgers winning this one in a weird fashion. I have 16-14. Means a lot of Jude McAtamey field goals, which is possible.
Same score as the Temple game.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right, actually. But he's a questionable field goal kicker too. Like, he missed an extra point to start the season. He missed the 30-something yarder, and then he hits a 48-yarder. It's like, what the? That doesn't make sense. And I don't think this game will make sense whatsoever. It could be a couple safeties maybe thrown in there at this point. Who knows? But I do have Rutgers pulling this one out with the crowd, the atmosphere. I'm sure Barstool is going to get a bunch of the students to show up for a change, which is nice. So, a little dig there. I'm sorry about that.
It's what it is. Yeah, I would say if I had to make a full-on score prediction, I would say somewhere in the realm of like 17-13. I see like a lot of field goals, obviously coming down to the wire, but give me a fourth quarter Johnny Langan punch it in 1-yard touchdown run for the win at the end of the game.
That's good.
I'm also gonna say Rutgers takes this one. I'm gonna say 23-14. I think we're gonna be able to shut down Nebraska. I think it's gonna be an ugly game at points. I could see there being 20 plus minutes where nobody scores in this one. But I think ultimately Rutgers kind of grinds them down and ends up winning pretty comfortably at the end. So, Richie, you went to basketball practice today as well. Obviously, basketball season's right around the corner. What did you see from the team, and what's the vibe around the basketball program right now?
Complete opposite from football. It's night and day. Ironically, they're going into what it would be the third tournament appearance in a row if they make it this year, and I think they're going to. Super defensive team. Lost a lot of scoring with Ron and Gio, obviously, but they've replaced some of that with Cam Spencer, who's averaged 19 last year at Loyola, Maryland. Mawot Mag looks phenomenal. Cliff is Cliff. There's a couple of New York Knicks scouts there, and I don't like the Knicks. I know they're like the second best team in New York, but it's nice to see the scouts there once in a while. But yeah, overall, this team's good. This team's really good. We posted on our message board their secret, not so secret scrimmage is UNC this year. so that should be interesting. If they could, I know it doesn't matter really much because they did beat Villanova and UConn last year in not so secret scrimmages. But it's a good test, and it's a good early season test to get the guys ready, get them amped up. God forbid you beat them, it's just going to build more hype for this fan base. And like TJ said before, there's going to be a lot of hype in that building, whether it be the Seton Hall game you mentioned or even like the out-of-conference games are going to be sold out. Like, this team is here to stay. Like, it's crazy. I never thought I'd say this about Rutgers basketball, but they're here, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, losing two guys like Ron and Gio, I mean, they were basically the program for the last 2 years. They were the stability forces, and they were the top two scorers basically for the last 3 years. It's going to be a huge sea change for the basketball team this year. TJ, what's your vibe on the basketball team? How do you feel about us going into the 2022-2023 season?
Yeah, I sort of wait to be like incredibly overly positive and optimistic until I see it. Like last year, the quotes that came out about going to a Final Four and winning a Natty, and then they come out and they have their out of conference struggles. Like I could see why the fan base sort of went into like a tornado online during that sort of that tough stretch against Lafayette and UMass. Like it makes sense. Like you build that much hype, and things don't go your way. Obviously, those games should have been won handily, but they weren't, and like that's what happens. I know that like they have the pieces. I think like Cliff, like you said, probably should be on NBA board soon if he's not already. I want to see like the way Paul could take over as the team's emotional leader. Having a guy like Gio, who was basically the captain of the team since he was a sophomore, leave. Like it is like a big like set of shoes to fill. Maybe it's not one person. Maybe it's a group effort. And they sort of rally around each other. I think that like Mawat Mag plays a big role, like you said, and that's cool that he's been, doing well in practice. And then obviously it's sort of like what you don't like the concept of like what you don't know with the new guys that are coming in, whether it's like the new recruits or the transfers. It's just seeing how they mesh. I think like it's a team that you'll figure out very early on what their ceiling is. Like I think out of conference you'll be able to see like what sort of dynamic they have. And if it's holding teams to under 65 points again this year and playing like hard-nosed defensive basketball and having Caleb sort of take over that role and show people the ropes, like wins are wins when it comes down to it. People might not like the way that we get them, like whether it's winning a game that's nobody scores more than 49 points. But, at the end of the day, like the goal's still the same. Like if we can shut down teams in the Big Ten, we can shut down anybody, in my opinion. So I'm excited. I think that like the tournament's now the goal every year, and it will be every year, and that's exciting to say. And we've never gone 3 years in a row, and I think this is the year we go 3 years in a row.
Yeah, it's wild how quickly expectations changed around the program, just from like hoping we could just have a winning record to maybe a 20-win season, maybe an NIT, and now it's like if we don't make the tournament, it's been a massive failure of a season. And I mean, those kind of expectations are like what major athletics programs have, and I think Rutgers should welcome that and not really hide from it, and I don't think they have. But just some Rutgers fans, they've been beaten down like dogs in a corner for so long that they have a hard time expecting anything and having a hard time accepting that we're good at a lot of things now. So I'm just so excited for basketball, way more than football, just because we're a program that's like desirable at this point. Like everybody wants to go to Rutgers games. Tickets are so hard to find at a reasonable price for basketball games now. Like you used to be able to go day of from a scalper and get like 100 level seats for like $20 in the parking lot. Now, good luck.
We're getting mentioned in articles talking about recruiting LeBron James' son. Like I know that's not.
No.
That's like should be a fever dream because I think he'll probably go to a Nike school if anywhere. But like that's a thing now. Like we have a recruit in that class, Gavin, who's higher rated than LeBron James' son.
Insane. And we have, we're in it for like several top 10 kids in this class and the following class. Like Ron's little brother is a total stud. He's a top 10 player in the class. We're getting like, kids from all over the country showing us a ton of interest. It's just, it's almost like I'm waiting to wake up from this dream of Rutgers basketball, and I hope I don't.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So TJ, really appreciate you joining the show. Is there anything that you wanted to plug or talk about before we sign off today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you want to vote for me in the top 10, like I said, it's on my Twitter, but more so just getting the word out about the college football show this Friday night. Like, if you're planning on going and tailgating and you need a place to sort of group up with people, it'll be from 5:30 to about 6:15-ish. Perfect bridge to get you in, and then you go right across the walkway and you're at the stadium. So there's no travel to get there. Like, you come down, have fun at the boardwalk, go see the Scarlet walk, and then come on over and head on over to the show. It'll be a great time. Even if you're not a Barstool fan, it's an entertaining product. Like, there'll be, giveaways, and I've talked to some people in the community, some notable alumni that are going to make an appearance, whether it's on the show or just in the area. So if you're a Rutgers fan, come by, and you'll have a hard time not having a good time.
And TJ, you can be found at TJ Hitchings on Twitter. Vote for him as one of the top 10 Rutgers fans to get him in the Hall of Fame, get him honored with the Penn State game. Guys, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. TJ, thank you so much for coming on. This is us signing off.